So when Nintendo holds their quarterly financial briefings, we oftentimes as Nintendo fans get a small peek behind the curtain in terms of their long-term and even short-term business plans, as yes, there is a ton of sales data out there with how the Nintendo Switch is performing and various video game franchises, but every now and then we get a very interesting announcement that could confirm bigger plans for services in the future, such as Nintendo Switch Online. And in today's video, we need to discuss a brand new subsidiary that Nintendo is investing heavily in and going on a joint venture with this company with one very specific goal in mind around driving the digital end of the business and subscription and Nintendo account model specifically being named. And we have to go over all those details and discuss what, if anything, this could mean for the true future of Nintendo Switch Online going forward. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today we're discussing an interesting announcement from the most recent Nintendo quarterly financial briefing that, of course, oftentimes we get a look at different sides of things besides just your typical sales data that, yes, the Switch is still performing very strongly. However, Nintendo did, and we may dive into this deeper in a future video, actually pull back their initial sales forecast for the fiscal year with how many units they are expecting to sell. But all of that said, relatively speaking, the Switch still has a ton of momentum behind it and is performing very well, even though we are starting to see that slow decline that I think you would ultimately expect in something like year 6 as we fastly approach that for this console being sold on the market. But what really caught my attention from the financial briefing is a partnership with Nintendo and an existing company that they are just expanding into much further with a large investment into this company. And it looks like, if you look at it objectively, this could be writing on the wall around what Nintendo will really be planning with the future of their major staple subscription service known as Nintendo Switch Online. Now, Nintendo Switch Online, where it sits today, has definitely come a long way since it launched back in 2018, but there is still a lot to be desired from this service, and the most notable callouts being things like Nintendo just being behind the times when you look at them versus the competition, supporting things like direct messaging with your friends or things like voice chat. And maybe you think Nintendo will never do that because they are more of a family-based company, and I would immediately challenge you to go look at the eShop and see what kind of games are in there, because they're not all family based. And I believe that if they actually did this behind an age gate option and give full parental controls, that you can't accept that as the cop-out answer for why Nintendo should never put voice chat or messaging platforms on their platform, specifically whenever you actually have to have somebody's ridiculous 12-digit friend code just to add them. That is another gripe that they could definitely fix with the service, something like a username that you could add friends through. And ultimately, if rolled out with correct parental controls, I think it is a win for gamers, because in the modern era, gamers talk to each other while they play their games, whether they're online or just experiencing different games at the same time. And on console party chat of some sort, or at least a messaging system, is almost a baseline expectation on the other consoles, and they've had it for years. And I do think that Nintendo is viewing this current generation of online services much different than they have in the past with services like the Wii and Wii U, because we have seen them go out of their way to say things like close to 100 million total Nintendo accounts that will roll forward into the future. They see this as a big asset to their bottom line, because that is how they can keep contact with those existing Switch users that are core users, not the casual audience that actually got attracted during the Wii era with the motion craze. This is a different type of audience that Nintendo is dealing with, and it even reflects in things like their software sales that are through the roof on the current Switch hardware, whereas we've seen them struggle with that even with a large install base on the Wii. It did not perform the same that the Switch is performing in terms of pumping out new software with high attach rates, and the kind of revenue it's driving is absolutely ridiculous, and Nintendo knows what they have with that. And I think this time they don't want to hit the full-on reset button and totally undo all of the work they've done with Nintendo Switch Online this generation, and that's where part of this interesting company partnership could come into play. And to get on the same page with what's been announced and said here, let's quickly hop over to VGC and read through their detailed typed up article together. Nintendo is establishing a joint venture company with mobile form DNA. It's either Dina or DNA. I'm going to read it DNA. I think that sounds better. The new company, Nintendo Systems Co. Ltd., will open in April 2023 in Tokyo, owned 80% by Nintendo, and focus on the development and operation of services to strengthen the digitalization of Nintendo's business. First partnered with the Japanese mobile firm in 2015 and acquired 15% of the overall company. DNA has released several mobile games under Nintendo's supervision since, including Miitomo, Super Mario Run, Fire Emblem Heroes, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and Mario Kart Tour. However, Nintendo's announcement of the joint venture notes that it will be focused not just on apps for smart devices, but the joint development and operation of membership services for various devices. Based on the expertise accumulated over the 7+ years and experience of co-developing multiple services based on Nintendo account, Nintendo and DNA will advance their partnership and establish a joint venture company, Tuesday's announcement reads. With the objective to strengthen the digitalization of Nintendo's business, the joint venture company will research and develop as well as create value-added services to further reinforce Nintendo's relationship with consumers. And then to quickly drive home the point on how big of a deal the digital side of Nintendo's business is, you can see this digital sales slide on screen where it does show in the yellow graph where software and add-on content and Nintendo Switch Online makes up a large percentage and chunk of those sales. Now, yes, this does include things like download-only software, such as your individual standalone DLC packs and like your Kirby Dream Buffet that you can only get through the eShop, meaning the games have no retail release option, so obviously that is a component of it, but a large portion of their 187 billion yen does indeed come from services like Nintendo Switch Online, and that is why we saw that big initiative to push everyone to the expansion pack, with Nintendo going as far as bringing back retro consoles like the Nintendo 64, which of course holds so much nostalgia for many gamers that grew up with that first 3D console era, and they've pushed it with additional DLC packs like these Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Wave packs that we've been enjoying so far and that we are still on the ride for through the end of 2023. And I think Nintendo is starting to really realize what they have with a paid model around digital sales and around subscribers that are renewing and are constantly paying Nintendo money. Whether or not you're using or playing those games, you are paying them money, maybe just to play online, and they're making their money off of the base tier subscription, which just supports the basic online play functionality, NES, SNES, and cloud storage. And it's like they could definitely flesh this out further and even come up with something more like a 3 subscription tier model, and maybe not tie all of the features around the retro library of games, although I still want GameCube in the future, probably on next gen Switch or whatever's after that. It might take Nintendo a long time to add in GameCube, but we may see that library of games ultimately make it. Things like Game Boy and Game Boy family of systems, I think, are a shoe-in for this still current console generation, and I hope we see it announced as soon as next year. But then you have to start to look at the functionality side of what Nintendo does with Switch Online right now, and that is where I think they have a lot of opportunity to grow. One of the interesting components of this partnership being with DNA that has worked on their mobile titles is, are we looking at more of a mobile integration on something like a Nintendo Switch Online app than the base functionality we see today, where you have your voice chat option, which again, I will hammer home that point. It is ridiculous you are using a smartphone to communicate with other gamers in 2022 and fastly into 2023. That will still be the standard. It's like, what are we doing with that? But Nintendo already has a Switch Online app on the phone, and do they dive into that and really expand its functionality in terms of having some paid options like voice chat locked behind a premium tier of Nintendo Switch Online? Maybe they include it in the base tier and they're nice. They could also make the on-console option only part of the expansion pack, or even create a third tier and create something totally different with monthly pricing options, similar to how you see Sony do with their PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers now. And they also have those retro library of games depending on which level you are subscribed to. And does Nintendo build out some of their community component around communicating with your friends via messaging and via chat, and build that into both the app and the console alike? And whether or not you are near your Switch, you can go ahead and still stay in communication with those same friends seamlessly. In a perfect world, I would love Nintendo just to adapt Discord like we are seeing both Sony and Microsoft do currently, but they may or may not do that. I think we're probably 10 years years out from Nintendo making a game-changing, revolutionary, consumer-friendly decision like that to just use Discord as an app where regardless of what platform you are on, you can stay connected with the friends you want to game with. But regardless, I think this partnership leads to some more interesting functionality when we look at the far distant future for what Switch Online can provide, and the possibilities really are endless. How much money do they throw into this partnership? They've already clearly committed to a lot with creating this new company in April next year. And how long does it take for us end users to notice any recognizable changes? And while you can look at this and say, well, this is the company that developed mobile games for Nintendo, so that's probably all they're going to do, the big thing around Nintendo account specifically being brought up here does tie it more to the idea of their digital end of the business, tying this more into what I think is the revenue subscription model that, yes, indeed, we will see Nintendo and many other major gaming companies. We're already in this era of subscription models. They're only going to double down and make more money off of it and make it more enticing to consumers as time goes on, because it is money in the bank for them and it drives a significant amount of revenue to their bottom line. And that is what for-profit companies like at the end of the day. So I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. What, if anything, you think this partnership with DNA will ultimately lead to with stuff like Switch Online? Are we getting a 2.0 overhaul? Do you think that Nintendo does keep true to their words and roll all of the current Nintendo accounts forward into whatever is next, being the next generation console cycle, and it's not just a hard reset like we've seen them do in the past with their online services? And if they do that, what kind of notable features do you really want to see personally implemented? I know voice chat and messaging are a big one for me, and an achievement system of some sort. I think those are three pretty basic things that could be added in and would add a lot of value for me personally as a gamer on the Nintendo Switch. But what other outside of the box ideas do you have that you think Nintendo could get really creative with and throw into their online offerings? Or do you think that this partnership really is referencing some other direction for Nintendo to go and drive revenue in the digitalization side of their business? And what direction do you think that ultimately takes if it is indeed something different? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.